evening. Tonight, we're shining a light on a story too often ignored: the ruthless persecution of Christians across the globe. While other struggles get the spotlight, thousands of Christians are being slaughtered and silenced, from Nigeria's church massacres to India's prayer attacks. And it's time we ask why this crisis is overlooked and why it matters to all of us. We'll dive into what's being done with an exclusive chat with the president of International Christian Concern, who's on the front lines of this fight. Then we're bringing in the praying citizen to break down some scorching headlines and guide us on how to pray through them. We're talking shocking revelations about MLK and more. The news you need to know, but with solutions and hope. This is Get Free with Christy Lee. Starting with some good news, young men and Gen Z are turning to Christianity in a big way, with a Make America Faithful Again movement gaining steam. It's like a spiritual revival. Experts say church attendance is up, especially among Gen Z guys, thanks to a hunger for meaning. But while that's going on, we need to feed these young men because we need to give them the reality of that when you become a Christian, you need to be prepared to be persecuted. In fact, the scripture tells us that we will be persecuted. And for some, it is harder than others. Open Doors just released its 2025 World Watch List preview, showing violence against Christians has spiked again, with over 6,200 killings reported globally in the first half of 2025. That's a jump from last year's total. Nigeria remains a hotspot, with 4,100 deaths linked to Fulani and Boko Haram attacks since January, while India saw 300 churches damaged in June alone due to Hindu extremist clashes. Right Scoop is reporting over 40 Christians were just recently brutally murdered in a Catholic church in the Democratic Republic of Congo by Islamist rebels over the weekend. That happened, like I said, just over the weekend. Local leaders saying the attack happened in the east, with the allied democratic forces claiming responsibility, and families just left mourning as this violence escalates. Here to discuss the persecution of Christians is Jeff King. He's the president of International Christian Concern since 2023 and one of the world's top experts on religious persecution. So, Jeff, thank you so much for being here.
Christy, it's an honor to be with you.
Thank you. Yes, this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. I definitely wasn't shielded from that Christians get ruthlessly persecuted. My mom was always a big fan of Voice of the Martyrs. I'm sure you're familiar with that organization. I would always ask her, why are you reading such horrible things, like torture, of horrible things happening? And I would see her, she'd be reading these stories and like crying. And she's like, I look at it as a sacrifice, like, it's like almost like an intercessory prayer thing. She viewed it. She felt like it was like something she needed to do. And it really stuck with me. Like, we even had these bracelets that said bound with them. And it's a fascinating topic also because my background is in traditional news media, to put it nicely, mainstream news media. And this is definitely something that was not ever covered, really.
Nope.
Mainstream media seems obsessed with persecution, obsessed with, if it bleeds, it leads, all that kind of stuff, except for when it comes to Christians being persecuted. You being somebody that is an expert on religious persecution in general, why is it that this is a problem that is so easily ignored?
Well, as you know, Christy, if you survey journalists today, and this is going back, 50 years, they're overwhelmingly liberal. So at best, they're neutral towards Christianity. A lot of them are hostile. So look, it just gets buried. And so then what happens is it's better than what it used to be. But generally what happens then is then the pastor's uninformed and the masses of believers are uninformed. So that's the deal.
Yeah, it's really, really sad. And I know that one of your latest articles was what happened in particular Indonesia. Can you tell me the details of that situation?
Well, I think I was going to hit on India. So in India, back on July 13th, yeah, there was an attack on a church, and radical Hindus came into the church and beat up the people in worshiping, as well as the pastor. Christy, unfortunately, it's almost not news. It just happens on and on and on. So the real headline is why? Why does this keep going on? Why is the Prime Minister of India silent on this, as well as his political party?
Yeah, I mean that is wild that they're remaining silent on this. You know, we're in a situation where we have an administration that I think posits that it's Christian friendly, and that it is. I mean, we hear Trump talk about how God saved his life from a bullet, things like that. But is enough being done to elevate these concerns? And with a administration that is so America first, does that mean that we leave these Christians out to dry that are in these other countries? I mean, what are your insights there?
Well, I've been in DC. Well, I grew up in DC. I've been here all my life, but 20 years in advocacy. And so something you learn is that religious freedom is always going to take a backseat to general, U.S. interests. That being said, President Trump has been a very faithful friend to persecuted Christians. We always wish more could be done. But in the past, he has been willing to go out and name and shame. And that is really the greatest tool we have, is for the U.S. president to name and shame and just bring attention. So even like the India situation we're talking about, they are intensely interested in trade, in making money. So anything that upsets that order of balance is going to get attention real quick back home. So President Trump has called out different leaders in the Oval Office, in the gardens, in press events. Very helpful.
Excellent. I did see on your website, which I encourage people to check out, persecution.org, something of a win, you could say, that a Pakistan court denied a Muslim man custody of a Christian girl. Can you tell me a little bit more about that story?
Yeah, boy, oh boy, this is a heartbreaker. And Chrissy, this, first of all, so what happens is, if you're a Christian girl, oftentimes what happens is you'll have Muslim suitors, around you saying, you're too pretty to be a Christian, you need to be my wife. And if she refuses, which is often the case, what happens is she could be kidnapped. So she's kidnapped, she's drugged, she's forcibly married, in quotes. She's raped repeatedly. And then she's, you think of in a very fundamentalist society, she is ruined socially. And so at that point, they kind of give up. And the police are involved too. So they will help the kidnappers keep the girls. And so the daughter is gone. She's gone for life. All of a sudden, poof. And this is including when the parents know who kidnapped. So back to the case. That's the broad picture. Back to the case you're mentioning. This is where we're really seeing the courts in Pakistan step up for the first time. Not necessarily the first time, but very rarely has this happened, where the court said, no, this girl must be returned to her parents. So that's basically what's going on. On the one hand, super encouraging that we see the Pakistani courts doing this, but a day late, a dollar short, and we need to see a whole bunch more.
No, I mean, we're kind of focusing on global, obviously, when we're talking about India, but just in the live show here on LindellTV, DC Dispatch, that I have daily, we were talking about a case of of parents that were being held accountable for plotting to kill their daughter because they were trying to bring her to Iraq against her will to marry. So, I mean, this has really infiltrated America. And I mean, even with Trump's efforts to deport and everything, like there's already like almost a point of no return on some of these things, like with the infiltration that has happened in our country. Do you feel that way?
It's such a complicated subject. So first of all, I couldn't argue too much of what's happened with the inundation of Muslims, and the majority of Muslims, I would say, if you poll them in the U.S., they tend to be much more mainstream than elsewhere in the world. And yet we have our huge share of radicalized Muslims. almost all the mosques in America have been built with Saudi funds or Gulf funds. And these are absolutely fundamentalist, the most radical imams out there. And so they're going to have more and more influence over time. And we've seen these kinds of honor killings. The only thing I'd like to get across to Christians, and I know you'll get this, is that the Lord brought these here. So oftentimes they can't be reached in their own country. But the Lord brought them here where they can be reached with the gospel. And they're a very hospitable people. So I always urge people, reach out. What changes a heart? It's the love of Christ. When we encounter it, it breaks us. And that's no different, especially, in fact, it works especially well with Muslim believers. All they know is a God of law and of justice, a very harsh, stern God. When they encounter Jesus and they see his people reaching out in love, they're very susceptible to the gospel.
I do find that to be the case, and you wouldn't necessarily think so. I think there's a lot of Christians that would be almost afraid to share the gospel with Muslims. But I mean, just as you were talking, I happen to recall a circumstance way back when I was in community college, and this was just after the 9/11 attacks. And so anybody that even looked Middle Eastern was definitely like being looked at a certain way.
You bet. Very wary,
they were having a lot of hostility. So I had a young gentleman in one of my classes, and I was able to just talk, and he was kind of able to like vent out, I guess, if you will, like that he was afraid because everyone was looking a certain kind of way. This had just happened. And I was able to share the gospel with him. To this day, I don't know if it's a seed that grew or seed that was planted, but I found him to be receptive because I was just kind and unassuming and loving. And that was at a time when they were not getting that. Let's face it. Everyone was like, we need to go to the Middle East and abolish these people that
dropping bombs.
Exactly. That was the sentiment.
Yeah, and it still is really with a lot of people. And it's a misunderstanding really of what nation we belong to first, right? We belong first to the nation of God. And so another way to look at this is that Muslims, they're followers of a religion, that's Islam, but the Muslim is the person. And Islam was created as a giant jail spiritually. Okay, and those people are locked up. The Lord longs to free them. Oh my gosh, his heart bleeds for these people, and he's bringing the gospel to them. More Muslims have come to Christ in the last 30 years than in all of history combined previously. It's unbelievable what's going on. In Iran, Islam is largely dead in Iran. And guess where the fastest growing church in the world is? Iran.
Wow.
It's unbelievable.
It was unbelievable.
So
It was unbelievable. I mean, and I think another point to reach them, I mean, is just this whole concept of grace. Like Islam lacks the fundamental of Christianity, which is this loving grace. And I kind of have new eyes on that. My husband was raised Mormon, and he still struggles like with the religion of Mormon, that it really lacks grace. And he still has, like, I feel like trauma of just not being able to fully accept that he has grace. And so it's been eye-opening that so many of these other religions lack that concept of grace. And so if we can show them that and share what it means to have grace, like, it would just be so compelling. Now, again, it's so shocking to me that Christianity would be so fast growing in Iran, because you would think, like, gosh, I'd be scared to go there. It's kind of like one of those things. Yeah. But that being said, where is it to be, I guess, where is it most dangerous to be a Christian right now? Is it, I think we think of places like China, but like, as I mentioned earlier, Nigeria, where is it the persecution of Christians most ramped up right now?
Well, there's two places I always point to, and North Korea is the one. And so people, I think, have a general idea of, oh my gosh, yes, that's a terrible place. And it's really hard to understand. It's such a foreign satanic place. I'll never forget. I've interviewed so many defectors from North Korea, and I just will always remember this one man, and he was a government loyalist. and so a staunch communist until he ran afoul and came under suspicion for no reason, and then he was locked up and horribly tortured. And he said to this day that when he goes to sleep, he has to have headphones on with loud, blaring music to keep the demons at bay. And that man was not a Christian. And I asked him, I said, what has kept you from coming to Christ? But you can imagine in that case where your whole worldview is fake. And so for him to embrace Christianity, it's often very hard because everything they were taught turned out to be a lie. So they tend to be very cautious. But North Korea, absolutely terrible place. But at the same time, I think Nigeria is the center killing ground for Christians. And Christy, as you know, in the last 20 years, probably almost 100,000 Christians have been killed. 3.5 million Christian farmers have had their lands taken. And you'll never believe what's going on. It's like year after year, the government there can't seem to arrest anybody. They don't chase the attackers. They continually come to Washington and say, our dear friends in Washington, this is such a terrible thing, but it's a bush war. It's guerrilla fighting. We can't figure out how to stop this. Could you give us money for arms to fight this? And then we just gave them $1 billion. Now, here's the inside scoop. Imagine our country if, I'm trying to think, let's say 500,000 Christians have been murdered in the last 20 years. And the government says, we can't figure out how to do anything. It's so complicated. It doesn't work. When it goes on for 20 years, the fix is in. And we all understand the deep state now, right? So this is an radicalized Islamic deep state that's really running the show in Nigeria. And so it's a stealth jihad and it's a slow-mo genocide. That's what's going on. That's really, really sad, but it gives us something specific to pray for there. I did notice also on your website, persecution.org, that there is a new bill that is drawing attention to this, condemning Christian persecution, particularly in Muslim majority nations. Now, the obvious question is like, okay, what does this bill do? How can this bill actually help protect Christians? Yeah, I think it falls into that category we talked about before, where it's the name and shame, and to come out, and it's really a reaction to 2 decades of stupidity, where it's not complete stupidity. Well, basically what happens, look, over the last 20 years, no one can say Islam, radicalized Islam is evil for some reason. And, it kind of gets blurred over the lines of, our racial politics over the years and our missteps. But so this is basically trying to write that to say, hey, wait a minute, radical Islam is extremely destructive, extremely dangerous. And we're seeing the rise of anti-Semitism here. So it's a backlash with those two things, with anti-Semitism and just the desire to start speaking plainly and to say, to name and shame and to call out the perpetrators. It does seem like that narrative of anti-Semitism, which we have seen, it does seem like that gets a lot more attention, though, than the plight of Christians. Again, is there some kind of special interest involved that we hear more about, say, that particular group as opposed to Christians who've been relentlessly persecuted for many, many years? Wow, what a complicated but fascinating subject. So I'd say, well, there's any number of things. But first of all, look at what the Jews went through, the level of persecution. And so there's very much a never again mentality, and where they could be wiped out entirely. So they're hyper vigilant, and Jews are very political aware. They're very educated. And at the same time, we give Israel, multi-billion dollars per year in aid. And a lot of that aid comes right back to influence legislators. So that's tied in. I think it's warranted to be hyper vigilant on anti-Semitism. But that's kind of part of the background of it. So part of the point of having you on today was to make sure that this continues to be, that attention is given, that we're aware of what Christians are going through and suffering around the globe. But what's the next step? Obviously, prayer. We need to consciously pray and intercess for our fellow
brothers and sisters around the world. Is there anything else we can do as believers?
Yeah, I love that question. And I was thinking about your mother when you were telling that wonderful story. Oh my gosh. And I was smiling because I thought you were going to go in a certain direction. This is what I hear all the time. And I bet your mother would have said this or would say this to this day. And I'd say people get hooked on the persecuted church. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason your mother did it. Because what you're seeing, if you boil it down, what you're seeing is biblical Christianity. It's the book of Acts. And it's still going on. And so what, the martyrs, the persecuted, are whispering to us all the time. And Christianity in our own country is very off. What we're experiencing is really weak Christianity. And they are calling to us. They're whispering to us and saying, here is the way to orient your life so that God is at the center. That's where I start. I say, first of all, follow. So if you're not reading our magazine at persecution.org, read another newsletter so you start to understand and start to hear, because we're all so busy. Anything I say isn't going to make a difference. So I say, first of all, learn, understand, and then let the Lord disciple you through these believers. And then everything else falls into place.
I love that. And I think it's just so important because, I started this whole segment with the, celebration that more people are coming back to church, but that is so surface level unless we feed them. There's become this obsession with like bringing people to the Lord and all that. That's well and good. The rise of megachurches and everything, like welcome everyone. And that's great. But, we are failing people if then we don't feed them and we also don't prepare them for the reality of biblical Christianity, which means it's not necessarily going to be abundance or all rainbows and butterflies and you feel good. Sometimes doesn't feel good to be a Christian. And we do need to prepare people for that, particularly as we know that many of us have been through a low level of persecution, having been through the pandemic and trying to fight for our freedoms to even meet in church. And so we just need to be prepared for anything that can come down the pike, and also see that it's happening right now, that there's intense persecution. Just because it's not happening in your backyard doesn't mean it's not happening. And I love how you frame that. Like, the more that we read about what's going on, that can minister to our souls and inspire us and yes, just be so much more effective. So I love that. So again, Jeff King, International Christian Crisis President, and persecution.org. So we can continue to read from persecution.org. And then is there anything else that we should know or do?
There's so much more. Like I said, I'd say start by getting the magazine and start reading about your brothers and sisters. And from there, when attacks happen, then you can be clued in to call your legislator. And that's the big thing. But the first thing I think we need is, as believers in this country, is our hearts need to be revived. We need to fall back in love with the Lord. That's what the persecuted church is teaching us.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. Thank you so much, Jeff. I really appreciate it. Keep us in the loop, because I would love to be a part of keeping this in the conversation.
Absolutely. Love to come again.
Thanks. All right. Up next, keeping on topic with looking at things biblically, we have the praying citizen, Lori Colley, who breaks down the headlines and some information that you might not have seen before. And she has kind of like a divisive topic, about in light of those MLK documents coming out. You'll want to make sure that you see that. But first, just want to remind you to please support this show. Please support topics that are not heard from a lot here on by supporting LindellTV, and in particular the show. And one way you can do that is by going to mypillow.com and just get some of your favorite things. It's that simple. If you do a little shopping, I love the towels. I love those slippers. The sheets are on sale right now. And he's adding so many different products all the time as well. You get free shipping when your order is over 100, and that is easy to do because there's so many great products. And just the key is enter promo code KL to get those fabulous discounts. And again, it also helps support the show while you get some fun stuff.
The last time President Trump was in office, gold soared 50% and silver went up a huge 53%. Americans who invested in silver and gold during Donald Trump's first presidency are very happy that they did it. And right now, gold continues to soar to the highest numbers in history. These gains are just an appetizer for what's to come. Some market analysis are saying that gold is predicted to rise another 30% in the next year alone. So now's the time to invest in gold and silver, and that's why I partnered with Fisher Liberty Gold. Fisher Liberty Gold is a conservative-owned and operated precious metals investment company. They even helped my good friend President Trump get elected through their contributions to Turning Point USA and other conservative groups. I have dedicated my life to ensuring that people get the best sleep ever. And in addition to owning a MyPillow, I can now sleep well at night knowing that you can all protect your savings with precious metals with Fisher Liberty Gold. With Fisher Liberty Gold, you can sleep well knowing that your retirement is secure. And if you call now, you're going to receive your very own presidential gold guide and qualify for up to $20,000 in free silver. But wait, there's more. Call now or text metals to 26786 to receive your presidential gold guide from Fisher Liberty. And for a limited time, I will send you a free MyPillow for qualified accounts. This presidential gold guide from Fisher Liberty will tell you exactly why you need to own gold even while Donald Trump is president. And just by calling in, you get a free MyPillow for a limited time for qualified accounts, and up to $20,000 in free silver. So don't wait. Call 1-888-4GOLD-19 or text metals to 26786 today. That's 1-888-4GOLD-19 or text metals to 26786 today to receive your free MyPillow and up to $20,000 in free silver.
Friends, we all know the truth. Big Pharma and the federal bureaucracy have made a mess of healthcare in this country, and boy, that's an understatement. President Trump signed an executive order to bring prices down, and that's a great step. But we know that real change takes time. There's one pharmacy that is already stepping up. I want to tell you about All Family Pharmacy. They're not waiting. They're taking action now with a summer sale that gives you the power to take control of your health. Right now, through the end of June, you get 20% off site-wide, no insurance required. Did you hear that? 20% off site-wide, no insurance required. They work with licensed doctors in all 50 states, and they ship fast straight to your door. Whether it's ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, methylene blue, antibiotics, emergency kits, or your daily prescriptions, this is a time to stock up. If you believe in medical freedom, if you're tired of waiting for someone else to fix things, do what I do. Take action. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Lindell and use promo code Lindell20, Lindell 20 for 20% off your entire order. That's allfamilypharmacy.com, Lindell. Promo code Lindell20. Let's protect our families, defend our freedom, and make America healthy again together.
Whether it's being a weekend warrior or spending time with your family, feeling your best is the key to doing the things you love. That's why I'm excited to tell you about Nirvanta. It's a natural solution designed to help you stay active and live well naturally. Nirvanta is a topical blend of all natural essential oils like frankincense, myrrh, and a proprietary gold standard plant stock extract. It's perfect for your hands, feet, knees, back, or anywhere else that needs a little extra care. Use Nirvanta proactively as part of your daily maintenance routine, and you're guaranteed you're going to feel the difference. Simply massage Nirvanta in for at least 60 seconds, 2 to 3 times a day to get the best results. And if you're not completely satisfied, you get your money back. no questions asked. There's simply no risk and no reason not to try Nervanta today. Right now, you get 15% off with code Lindell exclusively at NirvantaHealth.com. So stop reaching out for that medicine cabinet. Get Nervanta instead and experience the difference. Go to NirvantaHealth.com. Use code Lindell to get 15% off today. Nervanta Health. Live well naturally.
It has been a passion of mine to always keep God at the center of delivering this news that you need to know. And thankfully, I met Lori Cawley. She's of the Praying Citizen, and she has also a passion for covering news headlines from a biblical worldview. She does a great job writing a Substack. Her and her husband, Bob, they keep the Praying Citizen newsletter up to date so that we can sort through the noise and nonsense and provide excellent content and prayer points on politics and culture. So welcome back, Lori. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you. It's good to be with you. Boy, I really sweated this one out. I thought about all of us who have always had a special place in our heart for Martin Luther King Jr. and what he tried to do to bring up the minorities in this country and help them. And boy, did we get a surprise, at least I did last week, with the release of those files. So I wanted to update everybody on that because let's face it, I don't know how you, Christy, keep up with things because there's so much flying around. It's like it's like you're grabbing things out of the air, trying to, make sense of things. So last week was just busy as every day is in the Trump administration. So we have those files that were fully released, 240,000 pages were released last week. But I also wanted to bring your viewers up to date on some of these, weird things, these assassination attempts or actual successful assassination of people in the political sphere. So I thought we would start with would-be assassin Ryan Ruth. Now, he's a guy that was hiding out at the golf course last fall before the election, and he wanted to take out Donald Trump. So he tried to purchase a military rocket or an RPG from Ukraine because he was really pro-Ukraine, and he wrote that Trump is not good for Ukraine, so got to take that guy out. And then he signaled his intent of murder by saying he needed equipment so Trump doesn't become president. All right, so we know that he was caught before something terrible happened, and he faces trial in September. Well, what's interesting, you look at the connections, you look at people's backgrounds, and you see a disaster. And a lot of the disaster that I see is in the sexual area because I kind of keep my eye on what's happening with our culture in that aspect. And so there's more to the story because he has a son who's a convicted pervert. And it's just stuff travels through generations like the Bible tells us, third and fourth generation of those who hate God. So his son Orrin was arrested last week and sentenced to 84 months in jail for possession of child porn. Now, during the hearing, the judge noted that because of his involvement in a pro-child abuse web channel, so this would be a place where these despicable people go to share stories, share techniques, post just the worst, possible images. Well, that's where they go to swap stories and stuff. So he was part of this website. And, of course, there's a split family in this. His parents were married until he was, I think, 13 or 12 or 13. Then he lived with his mother, Laura. And then when he was 15, he refused to go to church with her, so she kicked him out of the house. He went to live with his dad. And then, according to the court filings, his dad kicked him down the stairs. And he left his dad's house. And then mom describes dad as being a sex addict. So, it's just like, oh my gosh. So who knows what's in this guy's background and what they're going to find out and what else might come out in that trial in September. So he was, the son was investigated in 2023, but they didn't follow up on any of it. They started, finding stuff on Orrin, but until his dad tried to assassinate President Trump, they didn't do anything. So that's kind of, I suppose if you're in law enforcement, you go with the stuff that's critical, and maybe they didn't consider him to be a critical threat anyway.
Lori, I mean, can't help but think of the whole biblical element of, eyes being the window to the soul. When you look at these pictures, I mean, so often these bug eyes, I joked yesterday, Kristen Welker had those bug eyes when she was grilling Lindsey Graham, and trying to defend the Russia lie. And then that picture of Orrin, like, man, it's so creepy. He's just kind of like bug-eyed, cockeyed right there. Yeah, it's a creepy picture.
It's and like you said, and we've been seeing that. I mean, think about Charles Manson, just throughout history, these people, when we've had photos available. Okay, so then let's move on to the shooter in Minnesota, Vance Belter, and you and I talked about him recently. Yeah. So he was an evangelical missionary, very pro-life, but he shot and killed a Minnesota lawmaker and her husband, and then before he shot her and killed her, he had tried to kill another Minnesota lawmaker and his wife, and their daughter was in the room. And anyway, they survived, thank God. So recently, and again, this stuff just kind of goes by because we are all so busy that we can't keep up with everything.
News cycle. Yeah.
So he sent a letter, or he had a letter in his car written to FBI Director Kash Patel, and then they published it. And in it, he confessed to the killings and predicted he'd soon be dead. So then he says he's been trained since college by U.S. military people, and he was serving on projects all over the world. And then he said that the stuff that he did shooting these people was all in the line of doing what I thought was right and best for the interest of the United States. Well, in this letter that you're showing right there, he says that, and you can see there's many lines in here. I don't know what the deal is. The guy has a PhD in education, or I think leadership. So who knows, I guess it's like written on toilet paper, his PhD, but he writes in here that Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, wants to be a senator, and he doesn't trust blank and blank to retire as planned, and that she is planning to stay at the last minute. With Amy plus blank gone, then Governor Walz would get one of the open Senate seats and wants to be governor, and then Keith Ellison, who's the Minnesota Attorney General, would be rewarded with a generous position. So he says Tim Walz, the governor, was trying to hire him to kill Amy Klobuchar, who's a senator, and Tina Smith. All right, so, I mean, what? And then he says he responded to Walz, saying he wanted nothing to do with it, called the plan off, or I will go public. So he described the killing, saying he was able to get away by God's mercy, and went back a short time later and shot at both blank and blank. He doesn't explain why he's shooting at people that weren't even supposedly mentioned by Governor Walz. I mean, what state lawmakers? He doesn't want their position. These people are in the State House of Minnesota. So then he notes that he didn't fire at police, but he had every opportunity. And then he invites Patel to call Tim Walz and verify all of this. And he says Walz supported him, which is true, and placed him on the governor's workforce board. That Walz kept the initial reports about the shots fired from the press, which I think it took a while for that information to come out, which who knows, maybe that's true. It's probably a mix of truth and lies. And then he says he knows.
Well, it almost seems like an MK Ultra case gone wrong. It's like they tried to program this guy to be the pro-life Trumper but it didn't work out because he was already obviously publicly connected to Tim Walz, and maybe he wasn't fully programmed because he was able to reveal some weirdness with Tim Walz and the plan that got misconstrued in his broken MK Ultra brain or something. It's like you have to think of these wild explanations because none of it makes sense.
None of it does. And it's the brainwashing, right? And we talked about that the last time. It's just how the MK Ultra is the brainwashing program, and it works. And there's a Netflix documentary on the Unabomber, who was MK Ultra'd at, I believe, at Harvard. So I think people are starting to understand this stuff isn't made up; it's real.
Yeah.
Now we
Yeah.
get to MLK Jr. And here's, this one is really sad. And so you bring out the truth, and there are going to be people who say it's lies. You're just trying to smear this wonderful person. All right, so we can all be the judge of what is in these files. So they were released and they're available in the government archives. These are memos and summaries. Now, the summaries are typed, and then, like we used to do back in the day, you would write corrections in the margins, or, so that's what we basically have, like a rough draft before, I guess, the final draft was printed. And then there are also some newspaper articles. So again, 240,000 pages. Now, when I went to the website, there were maybe 230 pages. So I'm not really sure where all the rest of it is. But back in January, President Trump signed an executive order to release all this stuff. And then in 2027, we're supposed to have the audio recordings of the wiretaps that they did on King's phone. All right, so the media claims that there are no bombshells in these Martin Luther King Jr. files. And then the AP, always a stalwart of telling the truth, adds that Trump pushed the files out now because it deflects from Jeffrey Epstein. Whatever. I mean, he signed the thing back in, I don't know, whatever. That's the AP. So the King children tried to block the release, but Alveda King, who's MLK's niece, she thanked President Trump because she's a strong Trump supporter. So there are two main things we should know about Mr. King. He was not a Christian in any way, shape, or form, either by the content of his preaching or the content of his character. And number two, he was a communist who wanted to bring Soviet-style government into the United States using the issues of racism and civil rights as a way to bring that stuff in. So the FBI spied on him because of his Communist Party affiliations, and the one who signed that approval was Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy. He kind of went back and forth, and he finally approved on surveilling him from November of 63 to April of 65. And because of the surveillance on his communist activities, they caught up all this information about his moral character. Now, I don't know if you had heard this. I'd already heard years ago that he had a problem with women, and he was always cheating on his wife. Well, that's just a tip of the iceberg. He was a consummate hypocrite. He was a braggart. He had a foul mouth. He was a sexual pervert, and he relished punishing women who wouldn't perform, quote, unnatural sex acts. And so we have a page there. So the agent is writing a summary, and he says, on one occasion, a Maryland minister brought to Washington several women parishioners of his church. The group met in his room and discussed which women among the parishioners would be suitable for natural or unnatural sex acts. When one of the women protested that she did not approve of this unnatural acts, the Baptist minister immediately and forcibly raped her. King looked on, laughed, and offered advice. Now, can you imagine a pastor taking his women parishioners? I mean, first of all, what husband would let his wife go? Just horrible.
Obviously, Lori, that like these allegations are going to be hard pill to swallow for some, because there's great reverence from MLK, especially because he has been sold to us as a Christian. And, so this one's tricky. I mean, the opposite side would be like, well, why would you trust these documents? Like, these agencies have always been corrupt. Maybe they were just trying to take him out because he was a good person. So it can get tricky at times to make sense of all of this.
I agree. And if I hadn't read the stuff myself and seen who's going to know that all this went on? Well, they interviewed the prostitutes that were also hired to, to be part of this stuff. And there's just page after page after page. And I suppose it could all be made up. But okay, so if we take all of that out, he still was a communist, because you go down to, he founded something called the Southern Christian Leadership Council. That came after the march in Montgomery or Selma, Alabama, or before, sorry, but it came out of, his activities in Alabama. So in 1957, he founds the Southern Christian Leadership Council, and their headquarters were in Atlanta, and they used civil dissent, such as boycotts and marches, to protest segregation. Most of the leaders were ministers who believed that dissent should begin at church. So who did he hire as the treasurer of this august group? None other than Stanley Levison, who was a communist Jew. Does that even make sense?
Yeah, no, it doesn't. Really want to encourage people to check out your Substack. You are seeking the truth above all and trying to pray about these headlines, figure out what to pray for. And I just think that's such a great, honorable mission and what we should be doing when it comes to news dissemination. So thank you so much, Lori.
Thank you, Christy.
Swollen limbs, joint pain, inflammation, skin aging, and cognitive decline. These are just a few of the awful side effects that you can experience due to poor blood circulation. And popping ibuprofen is not a solution to the pain. It's only temporary relief, and it's only masking the true problem, which is inflammation. Researchers are saying to add this Antarctic super nutrient to your diet. I'm talking about omega-3 fatty acids. But not just any form of omegas. These particular omega-3 fatty acids are sourced from wild-caught krill. Has been shown to support healthy blood pressure, circulation, brain health, as well as reduce inflammation, swelling, and joint pain. For a limited time, you can grab Native Path Antarctic Krill Oil for up to 66% off plus free shipping. Just go to getkrill.com/Lindell right now to get your special offer.
Friends, we all know the truth. Big Pharma and the federal bureaucracy have made a mess of healthcare in this country, and boy, that's an understatement. President Trump signed an executive order to bring prices down, and that's a great step. But we know that real change takes time. There's one pharmacy that is already stepping up. I want to tell you about All Family Pharmacy. They're not waiting. They're taking action now with a summer sale that gives you the power to take control of your health. Right now, through the end of June, you get 20% off site-wide, no insurance required. Did you hear that? 20% off site-wide, no insurance required. They work with licensed doctors in all 50 states, and they ship fast straight to your door. Whether it's ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, methylene blue, antibiotics, emergency kits, or your daily prescriptions, this is a time to stock up. If you believe in medical freedom, if you're tired of waiting for someone else to fix things, do what I do. Take action. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Lindell and use promo code Lindell20, Lindell 20 for 20% off your entire order. That's allfamilypharmacy.com/Lindell. Promo code Lindell20. Let's protect our families, defend our freedom, and make America healthy again together.
Whether it's being a weekend warrior or spending time with your family, feeling your best is the key to doing the things you love. That's why I'm excited to tell you about Nirvanta. It's a natural solution designed to help you stay active and live well naturally. Nirvanta is a topical blend of all natural essential oils like frankincense, myrrh, and a proprietary gold standard plant stock extract. It's perfect for your hands, feet, knees, back, or anywhere else that needs a little extra care. Use Nirvanta proactively as part of your daily maintenance routine, and you're guaranteed you're going to feel the difference. Simply massage Nirvanta in for at least 60 seconds, 2 to 3 times a day to get the best results. And if you're not completely satisfied, you get your money back. No questions asked. There's simply no risk and no reason not to try Nervanta today. Right now, you get 15% off with code Lindell exclusively at NervantaHealth.com. So stop reaching out for that medicine cabinet. Get Nervanta instead and experience the difference. Go to NervantaHealth.com. Use code Lindell to get 15% off today. Nervanta Health. Live well naturally.
Just want to remind you that our friends at Richardson Nutritional Center, rncstore.com, they use the medical protocols of Dr. John Richardson, MD, who treated thousands of patients for the C word, but we can say it right here, cancer, in the 1970s, with an all-natural metabolic protocol. For those who want a daily prevention protocol to help support their immune system, RNC's prevention bundle includes 90 days of 100 milligrams of vitamin B17, this is the key there, pancreatic enzymes, and vitamin B15. You can go to rncstore.com and use the discount code KL to get that protocol for only $1 a day. That's rncstore.com, discount code KL. And I'm really passionate about this right now because we have the Maha movement and everything going on, but they're trying to hit us at every level. They're spraying our vegetables, our produce, our food. They're putting stuff in our meat. I mean, it's like they're coming at us from all angles to pump us full of cancer chemicals. I mean, we can't even get the fluoride out of the water yet, right? So I think it's really important for us to be good stewards and invest in a preventative measure. And I really believe my friends over there at Richardson Nutritional Center. So go to rncstore.com and use discount code KL. There's also so much information there that you can learn about how this can help you and protect you with all of these things coming at our way. Again, also go to mypillow.com and use promo code KL. And finally, I want to make sure I share a verse of the day. And here it is from Matthew 5:10-12. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. So remember, no persecution is wasted. So good there. All right. And also I happen to be doing a Bible study on persecuted Christians and what we can learn from that. And if you'd like to join me in that daily devotional, I have that show every day at 10:30 Central, 11:30 Eastern time. And you can find that on my Locals channel. Just go to Locals and search for Christy Lee TV, or go to christyleetv.locals.com. Well, thank you again for watching. Don't forget to spread the word and share it with friends. Get free with Christy Lee now on LindellTV.com.
I'm pointing to Mike Lindell. That man suffered. That man suffered. The FBI thugs went up to him and they took away everything he had. He suffered. And Mrs. Lindell.
Then you guys come up and serve me papers in Colorado. What is this? Sir, what is this?
My Pillow guy Mike Lindell says the lawsuit is a sham.
How dare him come and sue My Pillow?
They went after him. It was just terrible. This was a vicious weaponization of your government. But I'll tell you, he stood up. He's all man. He stood up strong.
Do I think you guys and them are a traitor to our country by what you did to My Pillow? Yes. We are made in America.
Lindell says he's lost hundreds of millions of dollars.
And nothing was going to faze him. And I want to thank you on behalf of everybody, Mike. You put up with a tremendous amount.
How do you guys sleep at night? You obviously don't have a My Pillow. That's a fact.
He's a great guy.
With everybody talking about making America healthy again, I thought today'd be a great day to talk to all my fellow patriots about the importance of making your homes healthy again. Well, we have proudly partnered with airwaterhealing.com and their revolutionary whole home air purification system. The V3 from Air Water Healing does 3,000 square feet of purification. It eliminates dust, mold, viruses, and odors. But here's the part I love. They require no filters to ever be changed and virtually no maintenance. Whether you suffer from asthma, allergies, seasonal bronchitis, or just want to protect your family from the flu or even greater threats, don't wait to get your V3 from airwaterhealing.com today. Use code Lindell for 20% off in savings and free shipping. That's promo code Lindell at airwaterhealing.com.